Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is officially the first broadcast from the new studio. I am psyched to have you all here. We are live on LinkedIn. Let me see you in the chat. I can see you all in the chat as well. This is awesome. Stephen, welcome to the stream. Tom, good to see you. Oh, this is so cool. This is so freaking cool. We are live on LinkedIn, coming to you from the new studio, powered with a beautiful brand new BirdDog X5 Ultra, not sponsored, just absolutely love that camera. We are coming to you over Bridge for NDI as well. So we are embracing the new world REMI workflow. I love this. Welcome, welcome. Let's get straight into things. We got a bunch of you on the stream already. Thank you so much for joining. Let's get right into it. I want to talk Discovery. I want to talk NDI 6.2. I want to just try stuff out here. I've actually got some companion buttons on my phone ready to go. All right, next slide. Let's go. Let's talk about Discovery. So if you recall back to about May, June timeframe, NDI came out with NDI 6.2. They came out with what is, I think, the most underrated, underappreciated feature in NDI for a long time, and that is Discovery. So what the heck is Discovery? Discovery allows you to control and monitor your NDI receivers without having to do any external API calls. So think about it this way. If you come from the SMPTE 2110 world and you're familiar with NMOS, this is going to be very familiar to you. If not, let me take you through it. The idea is that you can have a receiver, for example, like Multiview for NDI, running on Linux, and it can say, hey, I'm a receiver and I can be controlled. Through the NDI Discovery application, you can say, okay, Multiview, I want you to tune into that BirdDog camera or that screen capture source over there. And you can do it straight from the Discovery app itself. I'll demo this in just a second. But one of the major prerequisites is you do need to have the Discovery service running on your network. Now, I've been on a number of consoles recently in NDI networks, and my personal recommendation is that if you're not running Discovery service on your NDI workflows, you should be running Discovery service. It is super, super important. It cuts out a whole world of multicast DNS issues. You'll also need compatible receivers. So Studio Monitor from NDI Tools is a compatible receiver running NDI 6.2. Shameless plug. We have Multiview for NDI. That has Discovery support in it, and we've got a Linux version that'll be coming out somewhat soon. But let me just take you right into the demo. Actually, I'm going to switch over here to my screen on another machine that I'm running. So on this machine right here, I've got an NDI Studio Monitor instance that has been set up to be Discovery enabled. So I've right-clicked, gone into the settings on this Studio Monitor, go to Application, and you'll want to check off Allow Receiver Advertising and Allow Receiver Control. So once those two options are checked off, you are now ready to hook up things via Discovery. Again, the other prerequisite is that you need to be running a Discovery service somewhere on your network, and all of your senders and receivers need to be registered with that Discovery service for this to work. So I've got a Studio Monitor instance running here. I'm going to come over. This is running on Tractus PC1, NDI Studio Monitor 1. I'm going to come into this drop-down list here. I'm going to select my source. And, just for funsies, I'm going to select the camera that I'm speaking into so I can see myself. So I'm going to hit Camera. So now, on the Studio Monitor, I've tuned into my BirdDog camera. And not just that, if I expand the properties here, I've got an indicator to say, hey, I'm receiving video, I'm not receiving audio. And I can also see more details. For example, that I'm using that this camera is sending the H.265 codec. It's sending at 1920 by 1080. It's configured to be 60 frames per second. And most important, I think this is super, super cool for debugging, especially if you're trying to figure out, should I use TCP? What protocol is my sender and receiver using? What protocols are they using? You will get that as part of Discovery in the properties here. So it says in the receive mode, UDP multicasts. So this NDI network I have in my home lab /studio, it's all multicast, which is super cool. And I can confirm that it is multicast. If I come into some of the other sources or some of the other receivers that are in here, I can verify the same thing. So I got another studio monitor running on that PC. It's connected via localhost, so you can also see what IP address your receiver is using to communicate with a sender. So this URL is going to have the IP address of the sender, of the NDI sender. So if you're in a situation where you say you've got a receiver that's got 2, 3, or 4 network cards, you can now see which IP address you're connecting to that sender from. So that's really cool. Just for debugging NDI networks alone, NDI Discovery is an invaluable tool. I've been using it on my consults. Can't recommend it enough. If you're running a NDI network more than 1 or 2 sources, you really need to be using Discovery. You need to be using Discovery Service. Can't recommend it enough. So Discovery, totally underrated. I've been super psyched. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. So it's super cool. What do you guys think? What does everybody think in the chat? What do you think? Is Discovery cool? Do we like this? Is this something that you're going to be using in your workflows? I hope so. And by the way, on an SDK level, if you're a software developer, you're an ISV, you're a hardware integrator, and you're wondering how hard is it to create a receiver that is control enabled, this advertising that your receiver is controllable by Discovery is just as simple as creating a receiver instance or an advertiser instance and then adding your NDI receiver to it. And you can say, I want this to be monitor only, or I want this to be monitor and control as well. And that's available in the basic SDK. So if you have NDI applications, they're not yet running on NDI 6.2, and you want your receivers to be controlled by NDI Discovery. I'm thinking about converters. This is going to be a huge use case. So, quad converters, NDI to SDI converters, NDI to HDMI converters. This is a huge use case. So instead of setting up routes, instead of having, say, router for NDI or the router from NDI tools running on your network and setting up different slots, you can now go direct to the receiver and say, boom, I want you to connect specifically to this source. So Marco, use Discovery Service in a production, and it is really awesome. Love it. Yes, I'm so glad you're using it. Again, 100% recommend if you've got more than a trivial NDI install. And these days, I would say more than, say, 2 or 3 sources, you really owe it to yourself to be running Discovery Service, run Discovery. Why am I talking about Discovery? Wasn't this supposed to be a Multiview demo? Don't get ahead of me. I'm going to get there. Let me grab my fancy controller here. Oh, I feel so futuristic. This is so cool. Oh, I love this. So we went through the demo. Now I want to talk about Multiview. What does Discovery have to do with Multiview? Well, we're adding Discovery support, not just monitoring, but control into Multiview for NDI. So I'm super thrilled to announce that in the next release coming out later this week, you're not only going to be able to monitor your sources via NDI Discovery inside of Multiview, but you're also going to be able to control Discovery-enabled receivers from Multiview as well. And I'm going to show off a demo of that in just a few minutes. So Discovery support is coming to Multiview. Related to Discovery support coming to Multiview are actions. So you may remember back in May, June sometime, we released Multiview for NDI with pass-through KVM support. We're expanding on this, and we've added some basic actions. So when you click on a viewport in KVM mode now, you can actually trigger Discovery routing. So this sets up, say you've got a venue, and I've got venues that use Multiview to power all of their digital signage inside of the venue. You can now say with Multiview, I want to tap on this source. When I tap on this source, I want it to be assigned to that TV, or I want it to be assigned to that receiver. So you're going to be able to do that now in the upcoming version. And it's not just one action, it is multiple actions. I almost think of it like a really quick implementation of something like a bit focused companion. It's not a replacement for BitFocus Companion. This is just triggering some specific actions. You should still be using a total workflow management system. For example, Central Control. Shout out Joe to Max. Central Control. That program is awesome. BitFocus Companion, as always, totally awesome. Another change that we're making, another behavior change that we're making, is when you subscribe to sources in Multiview now, we're going to subscribe to the high bandwidth version by default. We're going to subscribe to the high bandwidth version by default. Hey, Simone, welcome in. Awesome. So the default before was we subscribed to the proxy feed, and then it was up to you to click through and say, hey, I want to subscribe to the high bandwidth feed. So if you're using the UI now, we're going to subscribe to the high bandwidth version of an NDI feed by default. So that's a little bit of a behavior change. And actually, I want to show you real quick. I'm going to jump into another demo here, and I'm going to show you some of the changes that we've made for actions. So I'm going to bring up Multiview for NDI, the web editor. And so I've got a basic Multiview set up. You might notice that the screen resolution is a little bit whack here. Stay with me. This is going to make sense in a couple minutes. I've got a couple of really small viewports here, and I've got one larger viewport here. So what have I got going on? If I come into Edit Layout and I select one of these, I'm going to select this first viewport. I've got this new list of actions. So I can now say I want to assign a source to a specific viewport. So this is specifically supporting the scenario where you're using Multiview to power all the digital signage in your venue. Kind of the old way, where you have because I've seen a few venues actually use Multiview as kind of a scan converter, right? So they'll send out a Multiview solo feed to like a Bird Dog Play or a KiloView converter, and they'll use HTTP API calls to assign different sources to that soloed output. And that soloed output, that'll represent like a zone of TVs, like lobby TVs. So we've added an action where you tap on that viewport and we can assign a specific source to that viewport. So for example, we could say, okay, the destination viewport is going to be that small viewport up at the top, and I want it to use the source that is assigned to this button, or I can actually say any source in particular. And then I can say, what's the bandwidth mode? As well, I can also have actions that say, I want to assign this source to a receiver. That's actually how you might have noticed that I've been changing what's displayed on the TV using my phone here. There's an API route that will call these actions on a specific viewport. So if I press the X5 button here, I actually just triggered the actions that are on the X5 on that first viewport, which is to assign that source to my preview viewport on one of the multi-views, and also assign the source to NDI Discovery. Also, we get to do latency dance. Latency dance is always fun, right? Everybody loves the latency dance. All right, back to the demo. And of course, because HTTP GET requests are the cool thing, we've also got another type, which is just straight up HTTP GET. So you can include the source name inside of your HTTP GET request. So you could do some other downstream triggers. So lots of fun there. All right. I'll come out of this view. And so I've got this multi-view set up. All right, back to here. Another really fun feature that we've added is control tally. So you probably remember that we've got preview tally and program tally. You can set those up as PNG images on each of your sources. We now have the ability to add control tally. So I don't know if you realized, but in Multiview, you can actually select viewports. This is specifically for PTZ, pan tilt zoom control. So you could say, common use case, actually behind the scenes, shout out to Luke and Mike, behind the scenes, they're controlling the cameras. And they're actually using Multiview to control these cameras. What they're doing is they're clicking on one of the viewports, it sets that viewport as focused, and then any PTZ commands that they give to that camera, they get passed straight through to the camera through Multiview. So now we can have a PNG flag appear when that viewport is focused, not just the yellow border now. You can, just like the preview and program tally flags, you can set up a tally flag on that. Related to KVM as well, we've also added a mode called explicit KVM. So with the default, which is immersive, as you move your mouse around all of the viewports, that will change which viewport is actively focused. Now with explicit, you can click on a specific viewport to give it PTZ control. So that's pretty fun. Another really cool feature is program PTZ lockout. So you can configure Multiview that if a source assigned to a viewport is currently on program, so it has the NDI program flag set, the pass-through PTZ can be locked out. So that prevents an operator from accidentally moving the camera while that shot is on program. Hands up in the chat if you've ever done that by accident. I know I have. It's really fun giving the audience motion sickness, isn't it? Yeah, not so much. What else we got coming? Well, now we have, and I believe it's out, just need to double check how you actually get it into Companion 4, because Luke and Mike have been using this, but we now have, it's a work in progress, but we now have a Companion plugin finally for Multiview for NDI. So big shout out to Jonas for helping get this started. He introduced me to how to do Companion programming. He helped get the repository kickstarted, onboarded onto the Slack community, all that stuff. And big shout out to Mike Van Rossum for writing a lot of the code that is in the Companion plugin. So like I said, it's a bit of a work in progress. We've got more features to add, but today you can do some actions, like you can add, you can assign sources to viewports. I believe we have some feedbacks in there. It's really cool, awesome work in progress. So yeah, we've got a Companion plugin. Super, super thrilled to get that into Multiview and get that into Companion. It does require Companion version 4 or higher. So if you're on 3.x still, unfortunately, you're going to need to upgrade to version 4. Version 4 is freaking awesome. So if you haven't upgraded, haven't taken a look at Companion v4 yet, take a look. You're going to like it. You're going to like it. All right. Next thing I want to talk about. So you might remember back in May, last time we did this live stream. Actually, when was the last time we did a live stream? I can't remember. Awesome. Hey, Michael Lang, welcome in. Welcome. Welcome to the party, my friend. Good to see you. So back in May, I posted on LinkedIn a demo of Multiview for NDI running on this Densitron 2U rack mount control panel. By the way, if you've not checked out Densitron's stuff, I believe they're going to be at IBC. If you're going to be at IBC, go chat to Densitron, go play with the surfaces. They are super, super cool. I made a really quick routing example using I just hacked together a real custom version of Multiview so that when I pressed on one of the sources, when I tapped on one of the sources in Multiview, that it would actually switch what was displayed here on the preview. And I was meaning to do a little bit more of a demo, but then NDI 6.2 came out and we got Discovery. And I realized I don't need to use Router anymore to create the demo that I really want to create. I can just do this natively through Discovery. And that actually kicked off the whole integrating Discovery into Multiview thing. So by the way, I should mention the Discovery support that is in Multiview. You will see, and I'll pop back, we're going a little bit out of order here, but that's okay. I'll pop back into Discovery here, and I'll show you on Multiview, which machine is running Multiview? Here we go. So on Multiview, Multiview will advertise all of its receivers that are running in Discovery. So you can actually see for each receiver, what's the codec we're using? Is it proxy? Is it full bandwidth? And what's the receive mode? We're not going to do control. We're not doing control just through the way that Multiview for NDI works, but you can go in and debug your Multiview for NDI straight through Discovery for NDI. So just want to mention that. That was really cool. So how good is, there's a question, how good are the Densitron buttons compared to the Stream Deck buttons? So I like to say that the Densitron, I really like the feel of the Densitron buttons. It, compared to something like the Stream Deck XLs, Stream Deck XLs, I believe they're just plastic panels, right? Yeah, they're made out of plastic. Those Densitron panels, they're made out of some pretty heavy metal. I find the buttons feel quite nice. And they will, I believe they will they've got a number of different options as well. So I quite like it. I mean, I'm a little bit biased. Obviously, they sent me one for, review, so I'm a little bit biased. But on a personal level, I do like that Densitron panel. So let me jump back into slides here. Whoops. So Multiview for NDI, we got this running on the Densitron 2U panel. And this particular panel that's sitting on my desk, this one's actually got an Intel processor in it. I believe it's a quad-core processor, so it's got a little bit of horsepower. This panel is actually, I've got Ubuntu Linux, pretty stock Ubuntu Linux install going on it. I ported over full view for NDI onto it, and it is running with pass-through KVM. Pass-through KVM. So I'm actually going to show you that live. So we're going to jump over. I'm going to jump over to my command chair, and I'm going to show you the. I'm going to show you what this panel looks like. All right, cool. So here we go. I've got the Densitron panel right here. I've got a Multiview setup that is actually feeding this panel. So this panel is actually just running full view for NDI. So that's our custom, takes over all your outputs. And I've got pass-through KVM. So when I tap on one of these buttons, it's actually changing what's displayed on the television, and it's changing what's displayed in this viewport. So like I mentioned before, this is this is because of those actions that are part of Multiview for NDI. So if we come back to the Densitron panel, I can switch sources here. So I'll switch back to the camera here. I've got a third camera so that we can see a little bit behind the scenes. Oh, wonderful! You can see the mess that I've got here. I can switch to slides. I can also switch over to all my different sources. And so I've got, and if I switch over to one of the behind the scenes cameras, you'll notice I've also got some audio monitoring going as well. And I've got, in the lower left here, I've also got what source is assigned to that viewport. So everything that you can do with Multiview for NDI, you can just output here. This panel, I believe, runs at 1920 by 256. So yeah, we've got this demo running on the Densitron panel. So this is just acting as an NDI receiver. And then the fun part is I've set up 2 or 3 different screens in Multiview that's feeding the panel. And now I can do visual routing. So like I mentioned, this is perfect for say you're operating a venue. You can do some cutting of you can change what sources are going to your different TVs based on what your needs are. So absolutely love the Densitron panel. This is one of my favorite things to have been programming for. And it opens up some this latest version of Multiview plus Discovery opens up some really cool opportunities for doing source switching if you're in a venue, for doing some quick source switching. Even if you're not in a venue, you've got this guy in a rack and you want to do some basic camera cutting, and you do it straight from here. So lots of fun. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So we're going to go back over to the main stage. Oh, that's really cool. All right, back over on the main stage. I just want to talk real quick about what we've got coming up next. We'll get to the slide that I actually didn't quite get a chance to finish because, building a new studio plus getting live and getting ready for a stream and figuring out, how do I want to put all this stuff together. Didn't have time to finish the slide, but we're going to have more announcements coming out. I know I've been promising macOS builds. It's finally building on my macOS M series. I'm hoping to get that out in the next week or two. So cross your fingers, we should be able to get a macOS build. I should mention that Multiview, as always, is going to be headless. So even if you're running it on Mac, then it's going to be headless. You're going to need some other NDI receiver to actually receive those NDI outputs. So we are bringing it to Mac. And we're going to be also updating some of the ARM64 builds for Linux as well. So if you want to run it on, say, a Raspberry Pi or an Orange Pi 5 or something like that. And we're going to have more companion plugin actions. Now, what about NDI HX output support? Again, that's the way that the way that I originally implemented NDI HX in Multiview. The architecture's actually changed a little bit. So what I'm thinking, I actually need your feedback on this, because I do want to bring NDI HX support natively to Multiview. What would be more useful to you is being able to select HX mode globally through the whole application, i.e. all of the viewers are sending out HX or full bandwidth, or would you like to be able to select per Multiview output, whether it's outputting full bandwidth or high bandwidth, i.e. Speed HQ, or NDI HX. So I need a bit of your help to drive this feature because I really want to get it right. I really want to get it right. I've noticed some latency on Mac OS with Studio Monitor. Do you notice any difference in Multiview? Mac OS, I gotta admit, Mac OS I haven't actually done a lot of NDI stuff with, just because I'm finding these days I'm just on Windows and Linux. So as I get into the Mac OS, I should be able to get a better answer for you. Michael, I'm not sure. I have seen a little bit of it, but yeah, I personally prefer Windows and Linux. A little bit easier to code for. Apple doesn't actively, Windows and Linux, again, easier to code for. Apple, I find, just makes it a little bit more difficult to do what you want to do with the computer that you built. I'll save that rant for another time. So maybe 1 to 2 frames compared to Windows. I'm not sure that I've seen that, but maybe it'd be worth actually porting Full View or my monitor for NDI over to Mac, and we could compare Studio Monitor on Mac versus another NDI tool. Might be interesting. And I'm seeing in the chat, per output HX. That's what I'm leaning towards that, because the implementation that's in there right now, it is either all of the outputs are HX or all of the outputs are high bandwidth. So selectable depending on the destination type. Yeah, I've been leaning towards that. The reason I asked that question too is because I know that some folks use NDI receivers that can only deal with HX. So for example, the BirdDog X5 Ultra, I believe, has an HX decoder on it. It can only do HX. Somebody fact check me, I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it can only do HX, so I can't send a Multiview out to drive something else. I'd like to be able to do that. Selectable depending, yeah. So I think that's the way we'll go. For HX output, by the way, who wants NDI HX output as part of a future version of Multiview? So I'm just curious. Let me know in the chat who would like to see HX support come to Multiview, because like the code paths are mostly there. They really just need to be finished up, and it's been kind of lower on the priority list. So we'll see. But I think that's the way I'm going to go. With the HX support, we're going to make it selectable. So if you want this viewer to be HX, you can select a per viewer, HX or full bandwidth. It also gives us the ability, again, I keep seeing this as a use case of people using Multiview to do a basic scan converter or format conversion. So could be fun. Could be fun to use that as a scenario. Of course, if you want to find Multiview for NDI, you want to grab yourself a license. Remember, licenses are perpetual now. Includes 1 year of updates, and then after that, the renewal price is half price, whatever the retail is right now. It's available. Multiviewforndi.com. I want to touch this and have letters rotate. I feel like Vanna White right now. Just, here we go. The category is Multiview. Yeah, I would. Okay, HX, please. Okay, I'm seeing HX ASAP. Okay, would love it. I'm seeing some is lower for edge and bandwidth compressed environments. Okay, cool. That's settled. We're gonna have NDI HX. I'm gonna make that a priority for Q3, Q4. HX, please. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. We're gonna do HX. Don't you worry. So yeah, multiviewforndi.com. Shameless plug. And as soon as I've got more details about Full View and NDI and my monitor for NDI, those are going to have pass-through KVM coming to them as well. This will be your Studio Monitor-like implementation for Linux machines. So this monitor right now is running Full View for NDI on Linux. So this is a Ubuntu box that can also do pass-through PTZ and pass-through KVM. Yeah, so that's all I've got for today. I'm super, super thrilled that we were able to get together and do this. This is the stream from the new studio. By the way, By the way, I'm going to let you in on a little behind the scenes secret about today's stream. So this microphone I'm wearing, wherever it is, this Holyland microphone, not sponsored. I just grabbed the first thing that was available on my desk. That's going into my computer right now. We are using NDI free audio to convert this microphone into an NDI audio source. We're using NDI Bridge to connect up to our cloud broadcast, production system. So we're sending my 2 camera feeds plus my NDI free audio microphone feed over Bridge to Michael's place. Let's call Michael's place the cloud, because he's got a really neat connection there. He's ingesting all of this over Bridge, and Luke and Mike are behind the scenes mixing all of this together in vMix. We are embracing Remy and we're embracing Bridge for NDI. So everything that you've seen today from our 2 cameras and everything that you've heard, we've been using NDI free audio and Bridge for NDI to produce everything. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in. This was a ton of fun to do. We're gonna have to do some more live streams. So I am super, super excited. Studio works. I'm happy about that. Y'all are awesome, tuned in. Thank you so much for watching. By the way, I'm gonna be hopping into the Discord server in a couple minutes. If you've not checked out our Discord server, head over to multiview4ndi.com. There's a link to join the Discord. I will be there. So, let's see here. We are just working on an intercom system based on NDI audio. Awesome. Tell me more details about that. I want to hear more about that. I'm going to be heading over to the Discord server in a couple minutes. We'll do an Ask Me Anything. Head over to multiview4ndi.com if you're interested in picking up a license or a few. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you. And I will see you next time we do a live stream from here. Take care. Bye for now. Thank you.